Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
before we start this meeting,
Yes.
there's a few things thank you, a few things would like to say. I think I'm going to start off tonight, seeing I've been with you the longest so far. So one of the things I'd like to bring up is your time involved in this town of Burlington. I know this has been 12 years, but you've got 20-something years, maybe 30, who knows, involved in town politics. One of the things I really like that the longevity of this has been crazy. Your service has been impeccable. I don't think in the 12 years that I've been here, I've seen you miss more than 2 meetings, or maybe 3, and it was probably because of health issues and nothing else. I know this is an emotional night for you, so I am going to try to make you cry. Just so everybody knows that. Lynn, did you bring the tissues? Okay.
I brought one.
There's a few things I'd like to say personally. Personally, you've become an incredible friend over the years. We've known each other for probably 50 years before that, and the integrity that you've showed me on this board on how to treat people and how to be nice and how to be thoughtful and every other acclimate that you can go along with that has been incredible on my end. For the 9 years that I've been here, you've just been outstanding to the town of Burlington. It's been just a joy to work with you. There's an old saying out there, and I'm going to leave it at this because I could get emotional too. You know, you go someplace and you want to leave it a better place than when you got there. Mike, everything you've done in this town, you've left this town a better place. I cannot thank you for what you've done for this town, the accomplishments that we've created as a board, as an individual, the housing authority, the housing partnership, all the things that you've been involved in, the Board of Selectmen alone. You've left this town a better place than when you first got here. And it's due to yourself and the boards that you sat on. So, Michael, I just want to thank you, bud. Thank you so much, all right?
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much.
We're going to go with tenure. Jimmy?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. You may have known Mike for 12 years on this board. I had the distinct pleasure of working with Mike out on the streets for over 30 years. Him with the fire department, me with the police department. In fact, I don't know if you want to consider it a distinct honor, but a distinct situation where Mike and I actually performed CPR together on a victim who had suffered a cardiac arrest. And that sticks in my head. It's just one of those things, because that's Mike. Mike loves this town. Mike loves the people of Burlington. Joe, you just threw me off track when he said, first when you said, Mike taught you how to be nice. I'm still waiting for that, see that. But,
Nice, sir.
all right. Mike, you've been a colleague, I'd say, a co-worker in public safety. You've been a friend, you've been a mentor. And as Joe said, you think about all Mike has done between the fire department, housing authority, all his subcommittees, and this board. You can't put a number on the number of people that you've improved their lives because of your actions. And I want to thank you as, again, friend, mentor, and wish you all the best.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Nick?
Thank you. You know, I had the distinction of running against you my first, shot at this board, and I'll never forget, you talking about how even when you were a kid, you were always kind of in service to others, and how that's really driven you over the course of your life. And I think taking a few minutes today to thank you for all the years of service that you've provided this community, knowing how thankless a job it is the least that we can do as people who have gotten the opportunity to serve with you and get to know you. When I first ran, you and Lisa opened your arms to me and to my family. And I can't thank you enough for the way that you brought me into the fold of things. The parade, right? When I got on the board, kind of thoughts and how you have seen things done over the years, not trying to push, your agenda or your way of doing things, but offering to me a multitude of ways of doing things, again, in service of the community, And that's always stuck with me, right? And it is, and has been my absolute pleasure to have been able to spend the last 5 years on the board with you, to get to know you and your family, to do the parade with you, to learn from you, and I hope that you stick around. I mean, I don't, if you're gonna take off, let us know. But, truly, Mike, I mean, thank you. They are, a couple of words that don't fully mean, don't carry the weight of what we're trying to say, but I hope that, somewhere in your heart you feel it.
I do.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Truly.
Mr.
Very
Spano.
nice.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for all of your years of service to Burlington. I think the guys have covered it well, so I really can't add much to what they have said. And your love and dedication and compassion for this town is impeccable and unmatched. And I have learned a lot from you in my 2 years on the board with you. And I appreciate it. So I want to say thank you for that. We don't always agree on stuff, but you've shown me different sides of an issue and made me look at other sides of an issue I may not have previously considered. And I always take your words to heart when you speak. And I don't think I would be sitting here tonight without you and Joe in my interview for the ZBA back in 2018, trying to get on that board. And you pointed out, on my resume, it says Eagle Scout, Troop 511 Burlington. You're an Eagle Scout? Why do we know this? And I mention that at every single Eagle Scout Court of Honor I do. And I tell those kids and scouts that is something that always travel with them. And it's something that got me in the door here for town government. So you guys both were a big part and big supporters of mine of becoming involved in town government. I want to thank you for that. And all of your, all the lessons I've learned from you and all of your support and kind words.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Appreciate that. Thanks very much.
Mr. Sagariano.
Thank you, Joe. Mike, what can I say? It's been many years. I've been working with you alongside of you when you were at the fire department or working for you in your position as a select board member when I was a town accountant and the town administrator. And I just have so much respect for how much effort you put into everything you do here in town. In terms of affordable housing, I can't think of anybody who's been more influential on affordable housing issues here in town. We know how much time you've spent up at the senior center over the years, that nobody knows about that, and in a myriad of other ways. You have a wonderful family. They're always also involved in volunteering for everything as well. So I can't thank you enough for your friendship over the years and your leadership for the board. In your time on the board here, the board's had some really serious accomplishments with the new fire station, a new public works facility, the MWRA project and the PFAS project, just to name a few. And you were a very important leader behind all of those initiatives. And I just want to thank you for all your guidance over the years. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks very much. Appreciate those kind words.
Mr. Denizio.
Oh,
Mike,
Mr.
since I know you hate this, I'll add on and just say, I've got to work with you for almost 6 years now. I've been doing this a long time, over 20 years, and one thing that's really stuck out to me, and some people have mentioned it, was that you're a real voice and a champion for all of our residents, but especially for our seniors and those who need it most. So that's always impressed me about when I was working with you. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. Thank you for those kind words. Appreciate that, John.
Lynn?
Thanks, Mike. We'll miss you. Don't be a stranger.
I'll try not to be.
All right. You have anything you would like to add to this?
All I would like to say is thank you all for the kind words. Thanks to everyone in attendance. It's been a joy representing the town, whether in my capacity as selectman or otherwise. It's been truly an honor. Honestly, I don't really, not the kind of guy that enjoys being in the spotlight. I would have rather have sailed off into the sunset quietly this evening, but Lynn had other ideas and initiated this little pre-meeting love fest, I guess. But my family's in the room. I couldn't have done it without their support, so I have to leave it at that. So thank you all very much.
Mike would just like to give you this. We'll talk about appreciation.
Thank you.
You can actually give it to your wife so she can bang the gavel. Ladies and gentlemen.
Can we have to do some pictures, please?
I don't think they really want to.
Oh.
The wife might like.
Pictures?
Lisa?
Who wants to go up?
No, but I think-
Grandparents.
Let me do.
Granddaughter,
Yeah.
Oh, she's not bad.
Go get her. Oh, she's got her I Like Mike's shirt on, which is awesome.
There we go.
Yeah, I say make them come. Come on, Lisa. Start the charge. Get up here.
Well, right over.
Yeah.
We'll go in front though, so no one trips over all these cords, okay?
Lynn.
I think Sydney's gonna do it, but I can take a couple.
Over here.
Yes, go ahead, all of you.
Kill everybody right now. Both of them hate pitches.
Excuse me. Rest for the occasion. I gotta get at least one.
Go ahead. Yeah. No. Bring your head. Come on.
They look so happy to be here. Got the joy on their faces.
With just Mike and Lisa.
Okay, thank you, bye.
Mike who?
There it is. Lisa.
Good job.
All right, my family, you're dismissed.
There they go.
Okay, let me get my composure here. All right. Again, thank you all again, appreciate that. Okay, item 43, appointment Council on Aging. Marge, you want to come on up and introduce?
I do, but if you'll just give me a minute. Mike, I also want to thank you. We've known each other for 22 years of working with seniors together, and the last 6 years of you being our liaison has been amazing. And I know I'm going to see you at least twice a month going forward at bingo, but I do want to just put in that one last thank you publicly for everything you've done for the seniors.
Thank you, Marge.
Thank you. Okay. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay, so we would like to appoint Mary Cooney as our newest board member. She, I don't know, how long have you been coming to the center? Couple years. feels like longer because she's totally she's gotten involved. She's in 2 or 3 times a week. She's hands-on, helpful, and we think she'd be a great addition to the board.
Well, thank you, Marge. I see Mrs. Cooney every time I go to the senior center, so I know she's up there every day. And with Marge's recommendation, I wish to appoint Mary Cooney to a position on the Council on Aging Board and ask that the board waive its 15-day waiting period.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Anything further? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
500. There you go. Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you.
Shake hands.
Starts on this side, but I like it.
You like that?
Doesn't roll.
Congratulations, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. How'd you feel?
Congratulations.
Out of the box thinker right there. I'm going to stop her.
We have a new tradition.
All right. Item 44, approval, donation, police department. Chief and
Callahan.
Lieutenant Callahan?
No, detective.
Detective Callahan, is it? Okay. Just call him Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To repeat what's been said many times tonight, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you and for your years of service. It's been a pleasure working with you in all your capacities, and I wish you the best going forward.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, we're here before you tonight for a donation request through Viking Detection over on North Ave. Probably in about 2019, Viking had reached out to the department and specifically to Detective Callahan, who's here tonight. He's served as our liaison to work with Viking. And what Viking's been doing is they're perfecting some of their, too loud? Some of their drug detection equipment. And specifically, Paul has been working with them to offer some of the drugs that we've seized through contraband searches and whatnot to allow them to perfect their equipment. So over the past 4 years or so, through this relationship, they reached out to us back on March 14th and told Detective Callahan that they would like to donate 2 pieces of equipment to the department. The equipment in total is over $40,000. Now, if we went out to market, it would be much more than that. But basically, it's 2 pieces of equipment that they want to donate. One is a detection, like an X-ray detection type of unit, and the other is a Nighthawk handheld X-ray device, which would allow us to be able to see behind walls and would allow us to use the system on a handheld basis, which would be able to detect things that are invisible to the naked eye. Now, why that's important is that would allow us to see behind concealed items such as a wall, so we cause less damage if we went in there, for instance, on a search warrant. So between these 2 pieces of equipment, it will allow the drug unit really to expand their abilities in their investigation. So we're coming before you to ask you for your approval on this. And obviously, as this equipment, if it's approved, comes into the use of the department, we would use this in compliance with Fourth Amendment and 14th Amendment, or Article 14 in Massachusetts, and make sure that it's used correctly, but it would allow us to expand our breadth on narcotics investigation. So with that, I would ask for your approval on this donation.
Paul, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On a donation like this, it requires the board to accept the donation, so that's what the purpose of this agenda item is this evening.
All right, questions, board? Nick, anything?
Do we, I mean, I can't recall such a large donation having come in the last 5 years that I've been on the board. Does this happen on a somewhat, I don't want to say frequent basis, but I mean like in terms of large donations to departments like this?
Most department heads can accept cash donations on not cash donations, but monetary donations.
Illegal cash.
But when it comes to equipment, it's under state law, we ask the board's approval to accept it.
Anything further? Mike, Joe, anything?
I'd just like to say thank you to the people of Viking for such a generous donation to the town, and something I think can really help us in fighting the war on drugs. I think it's great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
How do you say no to this?
Yeah, right? All right, well, if there's nothing further, entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion we approve.
Items.
Sorry, I make a motion we approve and accept the donation from Viking Detection Equipment.
Moved by Jim.
Second.
Anything further? Being none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Detective Callahan. It's good to see you, by the way. You detectives, we don't see you guys very often. You're doing a great job.
Thank you, gents.
Item 45, redesign Birchcrest Street, McIntyre Drive intersection. I saw Mr. Hayes here, and
Let's see if this works better. I'm not sure.
We'll share it. Good evening. Tom Hayes, town engineer. I'm here with Gage Moran, who is one of the civil engineers on staff, and he's the design engineer for this particular project. So I'll give a quick overview, and then Gage can talk about the details. But Birchcrest is coming up for paving. What we do is, before paving, we'd like to evaluate, see if there's any other improvements are necessary, and there are drainage problems over there. So as part of our regular business, we'll be doing some drainage upgrades. But more so, if you're familiar with the intersection, it's wide open. It's not a conventional T-type intersection, so in order to kind of narrow it, neck it down, make it more conventional, and also reduce a lot of impervious, which will help with the drainage, we intend to, would like to remove a lot of pavement and rework that intersection. So I'm going to hand it over to Gage, and he can give you the specifics about what he wants to do, and then we can open it up for questions.
very good.
As Tom said, I'm Gage. I'm an engineer, and so I was tasked with going out and surveying this particular area. And while surveying it, I kind of noticed a lot of the drainage issues are due to the fact that the road just doesn't have an easy channel for the water to flow down. So the water kind of comes down the hill and just flows through right into number 2 Birchcrest, or in the corner of Cambridge, and just destroys their house. They get so much water. So I kind of talked to Tom, and I said, why don't we look into making this maybe a more conventional T-type intersection, 90-degree angles, which is the AASHTO standard for intersections. So what I did with the design was I pulled the same lane widths going up the street and down the street through the intersection, which is 26 feet total, 13-foot lanes each side. And then I pulled the same contour of the road, so it just follows the same road, maintains the same lane width, and it brings the McIntyre Drive approach up to a 90-degree angle where we stop control, and they'll have better sight distance up Birchcrest, and the sight distance on the other side of towards Cambridge wasn't really an issue, but it would be improved that way too. And in conjunction with this, we'd install 3 catch basins to further deal with the drainage problems. And that's the gist of the design.
So was it Gage, is that your name?
Yeah.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to- I see you keep looking over your shoulder there. Were you expecting a screen or something with your design? We all have it in
Hoping for slides.
It's all good.
Oh, there it is.
There it is, right there. There you go.
Yeah, I was trying to draw it up.
Yeah. Well, you did
As you
it.
can see, that hatched area is the impervious area that we converted into like a grassed area to eliminate some of that impervious and kind of just have a nice contour of the road and just let the water flow in that gutter line like it's supposed to in a conventional road design.
I'm sure the homeowners at number 2 there were quite pleased with this idea. I think that's the same home that has a little sign out there all winter long begging them, please don't pile the snow in front of my yard, right?
I spoke with them earlier this week, or actually earlier last week, and they were very happy because another problem through this area is speeding because the open intersection there kind of gives the illusion of being able to speed up. They said they've had several high school students come bombing down the hill and fly into their front yard. So they were pretty happy with this idea.
So we won't be getting cards or emails from 2 Birchcrest Street, most
certainly
likely.
hope not.
It's a good thing. All right, gentlemen, any questions? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What happens with that impervious surface, the dotted area? Does the homeowner now maintain that, or how does that? work?
Yeah, that would like, you know, the front 7 feet of your property is most likely town right away. It's their grass, but it's town property. They can maintain it any way they like. We would long and seed it, as we do with any road job, and then it's up to the homeowner to take care of it.
And then you already answered my question about the additional drainage with the 3 catch basins. No, I was actually talking to Tom earlier, I said I was a little concerned about that Peach Orchard Winter intersection, but then now I've been through it a couple of times, it's working fantastic. This looks almost similar to that, but I think it's a great design for the area and great for the neighbors.
Thank you. 2 hopefully quick questions. So the first is, it's gone now, damn it. All right. I was pointing at my laptop. So in looking at the way you have the new impervious areas drawn out, there we go. Coming off of McIntyre up onto Birchcrest, more or less the distance from, call it number 4 McIntyre, I don't know if that's number 4 McIntyre Birchcrest, but the big house in the corner there at the bottom, coming from basically their lot line to 2 up out onto Birchcrest, what distance of the road is that? Like how much further are we now extending out into Birchcrest?
I think it's like 25-ish feet.
25, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty significant because that intersection's just super huge.
Yeah. I was just curious because as I'm thinking of folks adjusting to this now tighter intersection, how they're basically taking that angle off of McIntyre up into the new section of McIntyre, and what that meant for traffic flow and all of that. I was just curious. I know that you guys wouldn't go causing car accidents. Is it 8 feet or just 25 feet? Okay. And then my next question is in regards to those 2 lines coming into number 4's property. Is that like a crosswalk, or how is that marked?
That was just a sketch of their driveway would have to be extended to
okay.
the new edge pave. So that's just a rough sketch of what it would look like. But yeah, that's
all right. And now, I guess follow-up question to that is, are we covering the extension of the driveway and the paving?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. All right, that's all for me. Thank you.
Anything on the side?
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. So just so I understand this, you're taking the end of McIntyre and kind of bending it up an angle to make a T to Birchcrest?
Essentially, what we're doing is we're pulling the edge of pave out further, just because all that hatched area is right now just part of the intersection, so it's just wide open.
All the dotted area?
Yeah,
okay.
that would all just be, that's all part of the intersection now. So it's just a lot of pavement that's just unnecessary. It gives cars the illusion that they can just rip down, take that corner pretty sharp. So what we're doing is we're just pulling the edge of pave a little bit out further to kind of just create a consistent contour of the road going down towards Cambridge Street. So the McIntyre Drive approach would just be pulled out further, closer to Birchcrest Street. So you have like a more clear line of sight up the road and down the road.
Okay, I get it. Okay, yeah. I get it now. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gage, a couple of quick questions, probably for Tom too also. So on the corner, we're going to put a stop sign there now before someone comes in front of us and says, we need a stop sign? And then we'll have to dig it up and put it, McIntyre, right on the corner?
I don't think it's warranted.
Okay, well,
Doesn't meet the criteria.
this is just trying to get ahead of the game in case one of the residents has a question like we have had in the past about stop signs going in
I
there.
mean, we can bring it to the traffic committee and evaluate it. I would say just, it won't meet warrant for a
Okay,
stop sign.
well, I'd like to just find out before we finish all the hot top and everything else. The catch basin, how much of an added cost is that to us? Putting in catch basins is not a big deal because there's already drainage there, or is that?
Yeah, it's part of what we do when we look at roads, if it needs additional drainage.
Right, but, okay, it's all part of the cost anyway?
Yep, part of the cost of doing road work.
Okay.
So we, every year, like incorporated within our pavement management system, we probably do, I don't know, probably $200,000 or $300,000 worth of drainage. Not on an annual basis, but on some of the major projects.
Okay. All right, that's the only thing I had. Thank you.
I'd like to add that there also is a lot of drainage in this area, so we would more so be relocating some of the basins.
Okay.
More aligned with the new geology.
Good, great, thank you.
All righty, Joe, that's your sub. You want to make the motion?
Yep, I will make a motion to approve Birchcrest and McIntyre Drive. Did I say it? His intersection.
Motion, second by Jim. Anything further? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Very good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Item 46, approval flag policy. Paul, you want to start us off? or-
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board knows, you spent a significant amount of time talking about flag policy over the past several years. Recently, town council reached out to us about sort of codifying what the board's decisions were into a formal policy that states out what your policy is. She felt as that would be an added layer of protection for us in the event that someone approaches us with a flag that doesn't belong on the town flagpole. So with that, I guess I could turn it over to town council just for
Absolutely.
to elaborate on what the purpose of the agenda item is.
Absolutely. Attorney Mead, welcome.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, thank you for all your years of service. It's been great to work with you the last few years, and I really appreciate it. And best of wishes to you.
Thank you very much, and I feel the same about you. You've done a great job for us.
Thank you. So as the town administrator said, essentially this flag policy is not a new policy for you. We're just codifying what you do now to make it clear that the flags and the flagpoles in the town of Burlington on town-owned land are government speech, and you control those. The reason this is necessary is, as you know, there's the Shirtlift case that came down a couple of years ago for the city of Boston, and just so that it's clear that nobody can doubt what your flag policy is or that it doesn't change, we thought, given some recent requests across the Commonwealth, that it'd be clear and codified what your policy is. So the policy is that, in fact, the town-owned properties is declared, any flag raised on the town-owned properties is declared government speech controlled by the select board. You can say yes, no to anything that you want in your own determination, period. And so that's basically what the policy does, and it codifies your practice for the last several years.
Okay, it has come before us several times, and we've struggled with it. Obviously, the requests come from legitimate, well-respected organizations, and sometimes it's difficult to say no. So having a policy in writing should be helpful. So appreciate your time you took to prepare this. Gentlemen, any questions? Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did a little research on this and found a lot of towns are starting to scale back their requests and what they're allowing, so because of incidents that have taken place when non-governmental flags were flown. So I think this will help protect us from, like the other towns are doing. So it's almost like a trend that is going on. If I can ask Attorney Mead one question.
Sure.
Attorney Mead, are you seeing that? You have several municipalities. Do you see towns going back to just governmental flags?
Most of the communities are making it clear that it's the determination of the select board or the chief executive officer. It doesn't mean that you only have to fly governmental flags. It's your choice. That's the point of this policy, is that it's government speech on government land, and you get to choose. It's not open to a public forum. So it's not that you can't fly any other flags if you want to, but you don't have to. It is government speech on government land.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, just for follow-up, the towns I researched are all just saying U.S. Flag, state flag, POW, MIA, or their town flag. So it just seems like a lot of towns seem to be trending with state, U.S., their own flag, and the POW, MIA flag. So just based on what I've looked up.
I think that's a safe thing to do, rather than to avoid any potential litigation. But I hope the board, carries on the policy going forward. Nick, any questions, concerns on this?
No, nothing to add.
Joe?
Nothing.
Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for Attorney Mead. Were we open to getting sued without having this formal policy in place? I thought we had kind of made our declaration already.
So you did make your declaration, and so the issue is, if somebody calls and asks you for your policy, or sends a letter in and says, I want a flag flown, can I have your policy? we can repeat your policy if you don't have a written policy, right? And say, oh, the policy is X. But having a policy provides the very clear message that the board has voted on this, and this is the town policy, as opposed to whoever happens to answer the phone.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No other questions.
Paul, do you have anything to add?
Nothing further to add, Mr. Chairman?
Jim?
No, I was going to make the motion.
Oh, sure, yeah, I was going to ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we follow our attorney's advice and institute this policy that she submitted to us.
Second.
Motion from Jim, a second from Joe. Anything further? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, item 47, the citizens' time. Is there anybody in the room this evening here for citizens' time? Is there anyone on the line wish to speak at citizens' time? I'm not seeing anything. Lynn, anything online? No. All right. Okay, we'll move on. All right, Liz, item 48, presentation approval, MBTA communities zoning bylaw presentation.
Right, and I want to share my screen. You should. All right, so let me share my screen for everybody, for you guys, and people at home. That's good. All right, all right, so for the record, my name is Liz Budventure. I'm the planning director here for Town of Burlington, and I'm here to discuss the MBTA communities multifamily zoning. I'm here to talk about what the state law is, what we are planned for compliance, and why I think it's important. So here's our timeline. So we started out, actually, we've known about this law since 2020. The Baker administration passed this law. I think it was kind of during the pandemic, and it went through both houses in the state. So we had a working group on January 31st. On the 21st, we had our planning board meeting. We got a favorable recommendation from them. I'm here today with you. And I am planning to bring a warrant article for the May town meeting to create a zoning overlay district for the MBTA communities. So hopefully you guys know, I'm assuming most of you guys know about this, but since we have a different audience than what usually comes to the planning board, I figured I'd give everybody an overview. So the MBTA communities bylaw says that any community, basically an MBTA community, it's a community within the MBTA catchment area that needs to have one zoning district of reasonable size, which is 50 acres, in which multifamily housing is permitted as of right at a density of 15 units per acre. And what as of right means, it means that the housing, multifamily housing, has to be allowed just through a site plan decision with the planning board. So it doesn't have to go to town meeting. It doesn't need to get a 40B from you guys. It doesn't need to do any of that. It's all of the rules and regs for the zoning bylaw, and everybody's rules and regulations still apply. So they still have to meet those requirements, but it is a by right use. And it can't be restricted based on age. So you can't have age restrictions, and you can't restrict the number of bedrooms. So, why is the state doing this? Highly educated adults are leaving Massachusetts for lower cost regions. So in 2022, 60% of the departures from the state were 25 to 40, ages 25 to 44. And that age group has a huge effect on economic activity. So the Baker administration saw these trends and was legitimately concerned in the long-term economic future of the state, which is why they passed this law, because housing is such an expense that people are leaving. We're also seeing that, multifamily housing isn't always a bad thing. People, people have a lot of opinions about it. But, allowing people to create housing near work, I think, is an important thing. It reduces traffic, fewer cars on the road. And, I think that in an area where there is multifamily housing in a commercial area, you're raising the property values of everything around you because people are able to live there, work there, go out to dinner there, purchase things there. And so, a rising tide lifts all boats. So this is not out of tune with, long-range planning efforts of the planning board and the planning department. So Burlington Master Plan encourage the addition of new retail and residential uses into existing commercial parks. We have that. There's a bunch of other ones. I'm not going to read them all, but you have them in your packets. Housing needs assessment was recently done. And I know, Chairman, you were involved in that as well. One of the potential next steps was MBTA compliance. So this is not out of line with policies for the town. So just, a look at Burlington and housing in Burlington. So we have 26,000 people, more or less. We have 10,000 homes. So that is like single family and rental. 35% of our housing stock is multifamily, and the average rent is $3,000 per month, which is crazy high. Again, we have a subsidized housing inventory of 12%. So again, we're above that 10% 40B requirement. And there are 565 specific deed restricted affordable housing units. And so, it just shows you, I like to bring this to your attention. So this was as of 2019. So it was up 2019, there were almost 47,000 workers commuting into Burlington. Only 2,000 live and work in Burlington, whereas 12,000 people who live in Burlington commute out of Burlington. So I think the ability to increase that 2,000 number to people living in Burlington and working in Burlington, I think is a good thing and is a good thing for our overall economy. Okay. So I also want to address, schools. So everybody, when you think about new housing, you think about school population, you think about increased tax burden. So just this is the data that I have. These are the numbers. So since 2009, we've permitted almost 1,000 new units of housing. And in that time, only 58 new students have enrolled in enrolled in public schools. So that means for every 100 units of housing built, 6 new students enrolled in Burlington Public Schools. So, just something to think about when, the idea of school-age population comes into the mix in this discussion. So what do we need to do for the state? So we are just one of 177 communities. We're not alone in this. There's a bunch of other communities that are doing this. We're an adjacent community. So we don't have to, there's no specific area in town where we need to put this zoning overlay district. We don't have a bus station. We don't have a huge bus station. We don't have a commuter rail station. We don't have a rapid transit station. So we kind of had the whole town to choose from. We need to have a district of 50 acres. So I think that's less than 2% of our total, the area of the town. And again, 15 dwelling units per acre is the minimum required. Basically, this is a big zoning puzzle that the state has required us to do. And it's basically, you need to have standards in your zoning. These are additional standards that we need to add. So I assembled an MBTA working group to kind of fill that puzzle, work. And so I invited a bunch of people from land use boards, committees, people from town. And the only requirement is that enough about zoning to just be a little bit dangerous. Because somebody coming into this without knowing anything about zoning, it would be a very frustrating meeting. So, that was the only requirement for that. And it was really great. We had people from both sides of the aisle saying, we need more housing. This isn't enough. And people saying absolutely no housing. The ultimate kind of consensus was, we need to get this to pass town meeting. So let's figure out a plan that is the most palatable to town meeting that's not going to have a humongous effect on the town. And so that was what we did. So here's our zoning overlay district. So we have 2 sub-districts within our zoning overlay. It's kind of like the town center overlay. We have the civic center sub-district and the commercial center downtown, down the hill. So we have a garden apartment sub-district. These are actually on all existing multifamily housing developments. The maximum height for those that is allowed is 3 stories, and it's a maximum of 20 dwelling units per acre. All of those existing multifamily housing units that this is on top of already has about 20 dwelling units per acre. So the garden apartment subdistrict is not going to add any additional density. On the mixed-use subdistrict, this is on some existing multifamily and some commercial land. Again, it's a 3-story maximum, 20 dwelling units per acre, and we've also included a density bonus. So if you can get up to 30 dwelling units per acre and 4 stories, if you include 15% of the development dedicated to commercial space. So that's our way of being able to get some of that, keep some of that commercial tax base going. And I think it actually makes good sense when you look and see where that will actually happen. And so this is the map. So, and we'll go through each one of these areas. But the garden apartments, you have Beacon Village, Heritage at Stone Ridge, and then the mixed use subdistrict, Lifetime Living, Huntington and Tremont, and then what we're calling the Staples area. So this meets the 50-acre minimum. So Beacon Village, it's existing multifamily and it's 4 separate parcels. There is not really any development potential here. So we've chosen this area. Area 2, Heritage at Stone Ridge. I know that, this again, chose this area existing. We did have to take off this northern part because it is existing deed restricted, age restricted for seniors in Burlington. So that part was not included in the sub-district, Chairman. So that was pulled out and that's going to remain the same. We did add it. So this is now in the mixed use sub-district. So this is the Lifetime Living apartments. Those are recently completed. So we are adding the overlay district there. Then Huntington and the Tremont, these are the multifamily housing units that are adjacent to Wegmans. And then finally, this is the last area, and we're calling it the Staples Commercial District. So if you look number 5 on the lower portion of the map, you see the Staples building. It's not the whole plaza, it's just that building. And then north all the way up to where Meadow Road meets Middlesex Turnpike. It's 8 acres, and the working group decided to add this area to the overlay district because there was concern that you can be in compliance with the letter of the law, but we didn't want to be we didn't want our compliance to get pushed back to the state because we really weren't meeting, the essence of the law. And the essence of the law is to allow more multifamily housing to be built in the state. So this was our choice as to where in town the group thought that would make the most sense to allow additional multifamily. And I've done the math on this, which I can't say I'm a math expert, but so, it's 8.2 acres. And so, a generous estimate, including parking, not including drive aisles, would be a maximum of 216 units. I think that's a really high estimate for what could potentially be put here. And that being said, the topography is difficult for a developer to do as well because it's kind of, Middlesex Turnpike is here and Meadow Road is down here. But, we really chose this area because it's walkable to a bus stop, it's walkable to a grocery store, it's walkable to retail and restaurants, and it's also walkable to an employment center in town, multiple employment centers in town. And so, to have housing here, I think would not have an extreme effect on the residents of Burlington, but it would be really great for our our commercial sector that's having a hard time now given the office market. So this is where we chose. It's also at least 5 different owners. So again, if you were to build out that 216 units, you would need to buy out all of these people, and so it's not likely going to happen tomorrow. You need to, it's going to be a while to get all the people, you're going to have to sell or buy everybody out and, figure it out. So this is maybe, I'm going to say 10 years down the line, 15. And so just kind of looking at types of housing. So what kind of housing could go here? So we talk a lot about the missing middle. So in Burlington, we have, a lot of large-scale multifamily, so Tremont, Huntington, and Fourth Ave, Lifetime Living are kind of large-scale, but, what we want to see in, the MBTA communities overlay is, that missing middle, so smaller multifamily development. So think about all the housing that's been put in the town center, and that's a good idea of kind of what we would be looking to see there. And these are kind of some examples of some really, I think, nice looking things that have been built. So there's Colbert Crossing in Sudbury. Reading has done a lot of infill in their downtown with retail on the first floor that, I think is great for that area. And then Mayflower Manor in Middleborough. So again, 4 stories, not your high rise. So that's kind of what the law is. And, what is this? So the state has said that in order to be eligible for grant funding, and these are some of our most lucrative grant programs, that we need to achieve compliance. So that means MassWorks, which we have received a ton of money from. All the lights along Middlesex Turnpike were done with public-private partnerships to do, and MassWorks to develop Northwest Park, our MWRA connection. We got $4 million for it. And Middlesex Turnpike redesign to Lexington, $3 million. So if you add it all up, we've gotten at least $15 million in grant funds from the state. And so, I think that it's a two-way street, right? So I think that it's important for us to keep those in mind as we approach town meeting. So in the slide deck, there's a bunch of them that kind of you guys can go through on your own. And then just things that I would like to do with grant funding going forward from future planning department projects that I might not be able to realize, or, I'd have to go to town meeting I'm working with Melissa Tentopoulos, and we've done a Mass Trails grant to do a Minuteman look at a Minuteman bikeway path connection for the town. So a feasibility study to look at different areas to do that. I think of the Minuteman Bikeway as a place to go with your family to ride your bike, but also as a commuter path from people coming from different communities into Burlington, having another option than getting in their cars. We need to update our wireless bylaw, and then town center overlay modernization. The town center has been in effect for a long time, and kind of looking at the past and how can that inform the future. So doing a review of that is something that I'm interested in. And then DPW, Rachel Leonardo has given me some things that they're looking for. So they're going to be looking for an additional $2 million for MWRA connections. They're looking for PFAS filter from Seth Moulton, Mill Pond Water Treatment Plant, all these things. So it behooves us to consider, what we will lose as, for non-compliance. The state also has said that, these 3 grant programs, they might cut off funding to, and others. So they, it's not just these 3. They can also kind of add additional things. We have a ton of, as you guys well know, we have a ton of major facilities projects coming up. And so not having access to that grant funding, I think is, it would be difficult. And so, any additional resources, information, we have a story map. So those of you, if you want to take a picture with your phone, it'll bring you to a story map that outlines kind of what this is. And, I'm open to taking any questions from you guys, concerns, love to hear.
I know this has been an enormous task. Well over a year now. You've worked very hard on this, and it's certainly no easy lift for you, and selling it is going to be even more difficult for you. But I want to thank you for your time and effort you put into this. I'm certain the board has some questions tonight. Mike, maybe I'll start with you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to echo the chairman's comments. Thank you, Liz. I know how much you've been hard and you've been working on this. It's a controversial issue. It's a lot of work. And I think it came into law when I was on the planning board. So I remember when it was coming down, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge for our community.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of questions. I'm going to try and limit them. So after we put
if it's approved by town meeting, this type of multifamily housing would be able to be built by right in those areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have we reached out or gotten any input from
in the Staples district on what their thoughts were? I know to do this, you'd have to buy them out and all that, but has anyone just asked them how they feel?
So I actually, as part of this, I sent a letter to every single person that could be affected by this. So that include everybody on Dover and Georgia Drive. All the property owners received letters from me. I mean, I can reach out to them specifically. I think, but I have not heard anything from any of them regarding this. They have been notified, but
Yeah, and the plan seems quote unquote, pretty painless for us as a town. I know. I mean, no one wants to get sued by the state. My other question was, so the plan is to go before town meeting with this proposal. What happens if it fails at town meeting? Do you have to revamp the whole plan? I know we have to have compliance by the end of the year. What happens then? Just walk us through what happens.
So that actually came up at the planning board meeting last Thursday. So and Lisa was there to answer that. And what she said is because it is a request of the planning board, that all they have to do is do another vote at one of their meetings, and it can be put back on the warrant. That's not to say that we wouldn't do tweaking, because we might. That's always a possibility. But that actually is the method by which she said that it could go forward.
And last question, has the state had a chance to take a look at our plan and take a look at what we're planning to do and just kind of double check to make sure we're checking all the boxes and that we're all covered?
Excellent question. The answer is, I hope so. So there are hundreds of communities that are reaching out to the state for interim compliance, and we are one of a ton. They are, to say extremely backed up is an understatement for them. I know that a fellow planner of mine in Stoneham sent in their fully compliant district in December, and she still has not received news back from the state. So if that just gives you an idea of how arduous this process is for them. I have sent a preliminary compliance information into them. I've sent them all my information. They have 90 days to respond to it. We shall see what happens. So we worked with VHB to come up with the zoning district, and also there's a compliance model. So there's a, Excel GIS mapping compliance portion to this that they have done for us. And, everything in our compliance model, green light, green light, green light. And, I think the state would be digging through our zoning bylaws and our PDD bylaws to make sure that everything is in compliance. Our zoning bylaw amendment that adds a section to our zoning bylaw is based upon the state's template. So it should be there. But they are, to say they're backed up is the understatement of the year. And so we're all 177 towns are kind of at their mercy. So it's, I appreciate, it's been tough.
And last question, you said we were an adjacent community? How many different categories are there? Because I know we don't have a commuter rail line, or we don't have a subway or anything. So we have, a couple bus lines, and it's kind of interesting that when we first came out that they called us an MBTA community.
Sure. So we are an MBTA community because we get bus lines. And so, again, it's the MBTA catchment area. So anywhere that the state has deemed has benefited economically from the level of public transit access that it receives. So inner ring cities and towns they have higher standards. They have to be much closer to their commuter rail or subway lines, and they have a higher standard. We have a much lower requirement than these other communities because we're a bus community. Right. So it's a good thing.
Okay, thanks, Liz, and again, thank you for all your work on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Mike. Joe, any questions?
No, just a comment. This has been a lot of work, and this is going to go on for quite some time. We've got that Staples one that Michael brought up, that it's up to the landlords to decide what they want to do, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like that proposed in this program. So there's still so much work to go on with this. It's going to be crazy. So I just want to commend you for putting this together and helping us understand it a little bit better.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I also wanted to mention the most important part of this, which I failed to say, is that this requirement does not require cities and towns to build any housing. There's nothing needs to be built. We just need to have a zoning overlay district that meets these criteria. And that's all we're doing. Whether the Staples Plaza wants to redevelop it, that's up to them. Whether they don't, that's up to them too. So it's really, the state's like trying to let the market decide what happens on these parcels.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Down this end, gentlemen. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, just to echo what my colleagues have said, this is a lot of work, but the way you clearly explained it makes it so palatable and easy. Just looking at the numbers, even if we weren't going to count I call it the cushion area, the Staples area, we're still 9 acres over the minimum, correct? Which it's a good thing. So basically, like you said, we don't have to do anything, but I think it's like the towns along the 495 belt that have the commuter rails. I want to say it's Holden, but it's one of those towns like that have to zone to add 500 plus units. Something, we're in such a good situation that smaller towns or towns that have the commuter rails, the small towns, will now have to, I don't want to say add housing, but add the zoning to allow for housing. So we're in a good place.
And just to respond to that through you, Mr. Chair, I think that it's a testament to the decision makers in the town, you and your predecessors and the previous planning boards and town meeting that have really pushed for multifamily housing and allowed multifamily housing in this town. Without it, we would be in a much more difficult situation, and the work of the past is really coming to help us in the future. And so you guys have been very progressive, this board's been very progressive about housing and being above the 10% and all that. So I think that we really are utilizing this as a way to get credit for what's been done in the past, but also look to the future and think about housing near our employment centers and how that can benefit our economy as a whole.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Liz, of course, thank you. I guess, my question, and you probably don't have an answer, and that's okay, is more about long-term and the state using the stick over the carrot, right? So we say, here's our district, right, or our district with our 2 sub-districts, and they go, okay, fine for now, right, because they're on a time crunch. And then we start progressing with, say, Melissa's rezoning plan for Mall Road. Do they have the authority to say, yeah, include that too? Or because we're over the threshold and we meet the current existing requirements, are they going to leave us alone? Because I think what the committee's done is obviously listen to the residents who are hey, listen, we have enough density right now. We don't want to build a ton more stuff just to meet the state's requirements, right? And so we've identified places that already fit, which is great. I guess what I'm fearful of is the state coming back in and going, oh, you're building more stuff? Whack! Include it and let them do X, Y, and Z with it.
I personally, and we can ask Lisa, town council as well. She has other communities and she's very in touch with the state on this and in tune with it. I don't believe so. I think the state it realizes that this is a big undertaking, and I don't see them kind of, I could see it happening more in commuter rail communities and in communities that are rapid transit, but not here, not when we just have bus lines.
Sure.
And so I don't think that's something that people in town should be fearful of. And, you know, I think we're gonna be in good shape, and if I hear anything, you guys will know, but I think the state, you know, there's a lot that they have to do to get everybody into compliance, and I think it's gonna be a while. They're very overwhelmed right now, so for them to be making new regulations at this point, I think, I just don't see how they would do it.
Yeah, no, of course. It's funny, right? You know, they include us because we've benefited from the MBTA, right? I mean, I would have venture a guess say that, you know, of those 46,000 people commuting into Burlington every day, they're probably coming by car because of the highway, right? We don't see 46,000 people on the buses. So we have the highway to thank, right? Mass DOT. I mean, look, I'm not fearful of diverse housing or even a little bit more density. I think what we're hearing through Melissa, you know, for businesses that do want to relocate out here is they're saying, you know, this new wave of 20 and 30-somethings who are beginning to dominate the workforce have a completely different way of living, and suburbia has a hard way of fitting into that, right? And I don't think that, I mean, we're never just going to suddenly transform into something else, but to find pockets of adaptivity, right, and give them what they need so that the business does come here and create and really see that 2,000 number grow, right? People who are living and working in the community, right? Like, I mean, with work from home becoming a huge advent, you know, that's absolutely something that we should, you know, I guess use this as an opportunity to, you know, keep having that discussion. So, again, thank you for putting this together. I appreciate it, and it'll be interesting to listen to the discussion at town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Obviously, nobody likes mandates. Unfunded mandates are particularly distasteful. But as you alluded earlier in your presentation, the state has some legitimate concerns with the amount of people that are fleeing Massachusetts due to the high cost of housing. We've heard it here from our own industry leaders, particularly the I can't name it, the new director over there, Leahy is. I mean, you know, they're a teaching hospital, and once these people finish their residencies, they're leaving. They're not sticking around, which is very disheartening to the folks over there at Leahy Clinic. They just know it's just unaffordable in our area, and just getting more so day in and day out. Liz, I know you'd like to go to town meeting with some support from the board. I think there's a lot to cover here. I think, asking them to take a vote tonight, I think might be a little premature, but let them digest what they've got in front of them and bring it back again, if it's okay with these gentlemen, but prior to town meeting, and see if we can't get some consensus and maybe approach town meeting in a unified manner. How's that sound?
I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I look forward to. I want to talk to everybody about this. So if you have any questions, reach out.
I see you brought Jessica with you tonight too. Jessica, thank you for coming. We can call you too if we have questions.
Yep. Okay. That's been good. So thank you guys.
All right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
All right. Item 49, we have a presentation from our Ways and Means distinguished members. I see several of them in attendance here. I'm not sure who's. He's already here, John Allen.
I stuck up on it.
You sure did, you son of a gun. Okay. All right, John, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and congratulations, and thank you very much for all your time that you put into the town.
Thank you, sir.
Great. So John's got this up here. So I'd like to talk about a few things. We'll talk about some of the big projects coming up, how that ties into Proposition 2.5, so I'll go over that a little bit, what the debt and tax implications of those things are, and then present some Ways and Means recommendations and the timeline that applies. Go to the next slide. So if we look at past projects, Thank you. I'm not going to go through every detail of every slide, so don't panic. The key thing here is if you look at the old past projects that we've done, they fall in the $8 to $32 million range. So why is that interesting? If we go to the next slide, we look at the projects coming up here that we're looking at. In particular, police station is in the $45 million range cost for the town. Fox Hill, after incentives and MSBA funding, is $61.5 million. And we know that there's a high school project that's in a feasibility study, and further down the pike, we understand from the school committee that they're looking at something for Pine Glen at some point. So the point is, these projects are 2 to 3 times the size of what we've been doing in the recent past. So things that used to fit into the budget no longer as easily fit in. So we need to think about them a lot more. Debt service is significantly higher, so it has a greater impact, and it's something that requires a little bit more planning. And that's exactly what this presentation is all about, is what is the planning associated with that. If we go to the next slide, just to hit on the 2 big ones that are in the near term here, Police Station and Fox Hill. I think we understand police station's pretty darn old, built in 1898, and has a lot of associated problems with the old systems and leaks and mold. And I think Chief Brown could probably give a lot more details of why he's a little sad about being in that building. So in September of 2022, town meeting approved a feasibility study to look into what could be done for a newer renovated police station. And right now the plan is to put in a new one and expand from 27 to 35,000 square feet. So if we look at the next slide, for Fox Hill, not quite as old as the police station, but been around a while. And as a result, we do have an aging building with things that are in need of repair. We have offices in the hallway. We have art and music classes moving into a cart-based thing as opposed to classrooms, and a lot more special services that weren't provided 40 years ago. There just isn't space or proper space for those things, and they're happening in hallways and other unusual areas. And just in general, the layout's not particularly optimal. And if you look at the detailed design analysis that's been done, there's a whole section in there if you want to go into all the details of why Fox Hill isn't really meeting our needs anymore. Again, it's not as old as police station, but I don't think we're looking to have all our buildings get in the condition that the police station is in before we look at replacing them. The goal is to keep up with our infrastructure, not wait for it to decay past the point of no return. So in January of 2022, town meeting approved a $1.5 million feasibility study. And part of why it's a much larger amount is that the MSBA, in order to get funding, requires a very prescribed process that you have to go through. So in particular, the process needs to go much further. So it needs to consider all options of renovation, replacement, and so forth. And in order to get to the point of getting the grant, it requires that a fairly detailed design process has gone through. So where we've ended up is that the building committee has recommended a Fox Hill replacement expanding from 64,000 to 91,000 square feet. And as part of the incentives, so this is nominally a $100 million project, but as part of the incentives, the MSBA has said they'll kick in $33 million, and there's about $5.5 million of energy incentives that go along with this. So that's about $38 million on a $100 million project. So that's a rather substantial fraction that will be funded outside of Burlington, which brings our cost down to 61.5 that we saw earlier. So one thing to be aware of is that there's no guarantee that these kind of grants or incentives would be in place if for some reason we decide not to follow through on this. We have invested 2 years into this process, or over 2 years, with the building committee. They've had numerous hearings, lots of public input, and have basically narrowed it down to this one choice out of many. So I'll just point out, only because I know there is concern with how this might relate to a future high school project and so on. If we don't follow through on this project now, it has several impacts. One is that it really hurts Burlington's credibility. I think if at this point we were to say we've decided the high school is a higher priority and we're going to put this off, I think MSBA would say, well, thanks for wasting our time. And while they can't officially say this, I'm pretty sure mentally they're going to say next time we come around that they're not going to take us seriously because we've gone very far down this path with them. And it does hurt our credibility, I think, both inside and outside the town if we've gone to all this trouble to go through a feasibility study, enumerate all the deficiencies of the Fox Hill School that we submitted with the plan, and then not follow through because we changed our mind. So I think that's something to keep in mind there. If we go to the next slide, I'm just going to shift over to a little bit about Prop 2.5 because there's a lot of details involved with this, and it does affect our thinking and votes and things that the select board will be required to do to work on these projects. So Prop 2.5 has been with us for over 40 years, and it has a few key things. The third bullet there is probably the most significant one, the levy limit. So every year there's a levy limit, which is the maximum amount that the town can levy without additional votes of the town. And that goes up by 2.5% every year. In addition to that, it can go up by any new growth in the town. So if new buildings are put in, if you add a deck to your house, that's all considered new growth. And the important thing is if you look at that equation, what you don't see is inflation. So as you know, we've had a few years of high inflation where it's been over 2.5, but Prop 2.5 doesn't give us any leeway on that. So every year inflation is higher than the allowed levy limit increase. We, in some sense, lose some ground there in terms of what we can do on our levy. The final point is that there's this concept of excess levy capacity. So if you take the levy limit that's allowed, again, the levy limit is what we're allowed to levy, not what we actually levy. The difference between the levy limit and our actual levy is the unused capacity. Right now, it's about $12.9 million. So that's a good place to be. It means that if for whatever reason we decided we need to increase the levy by $12 million this year, we could do that without any additional vote from the town. It may not make you guys real popular, but we could do it. That's something that the rating agencies take into account and value. It means that the town will be able to meet its obligations and keep services where they should be without having to go to a town-wide vote just to get the operation budget funded. So if we go to the next slide, it's just a quick graphic of the same thing there. The levy limit base is whatever the previous year's limit was. You have the 2.5% automatic increase, and then on top of that is any new growth and any Prop 2.5 override that is applied. And I'll talk about in the next slide and future slides the Prop 2.5 override and the debt exclusion mechanisms, which will become important in a moment. So a Prop 2.5 override is the first way that the levy limit can be increased beyond what the standard automatic 2.5 increase allows. This is a permanent increase to the levy limit. So once it's added in, that's now factored into increases in future years. In order to have an override, it has to be put on the ballot by the select board, by a majority of select board, 3 in our case. And then it would need to pass a majority of a town vote in order to become effective. There's, as you can see, a lot of the communities in Massachusetts have had overrides at various times, over 300 and 351. But the pass rate isn't real great. It's only 41% if you look at all the stats. So depending on an override in order to get your operating budget to be funded is a risky proposition, and why we want to do whatever we can to avoid bumping up against that and requiring an override in the future. Burlington has never attempted to do a 2.5 override, so we don't have any statistics of how that would work out. If we go to the next slide, we'll see the other mechanism, which is a debt exclusion, which is something we'll be talking more about. So a debt exclusion is a little different, and that's an increase to the levy limit just for the life of the bond, the debt service associated with your project. Once the project is paid off in 20-ish years typically, that goes away. It's not added into the levy limit anymore. So in some ways it's more palatable to the electorate in that they understand that, okay, this is for a specific project. I'm not voting for something that's forever. In order for this to be put on the ballot, it requires 2/3 vote of select board, or 4/3 in our case. I'll point out, just because there's some confusion, town meeting has absolutely no role to play in terms of getting the debt exclusion on the ballot. It's strictly a select board mechanism. Town meeting's rule is that it, of course, has to authorize the expenditure. And since there would be bonding involved, it requires a 2/3 vote of the town meeting. So again, in order for the debt exclusion to actually pass, a majority of the town would need to vote for it. And again, quite a few communities, 313, have done debt exclusions at one time or another. And the success rate is vastly higher, it's 90%. So for whatever reason, people are more willing to buy into a debt exclusion than a 2.5 override. Burlington has attempted to do debt exclusions twice. One time was almost passed but didn't, and the other time didn't almost pass. So in both cases, as you can see the projects there, we did end up doing similar projects without a debt exclusion. So not having a debt exclusion doesn't mean you can't do the project. It just means you don't get the additional headroom in the ability to raise your levy that you would have with the exclusion. So if we go to the next slide. So we did a few models just to see, okay, we have this almost $13 million excess levy capacity that we would like to see not go away. Because if we eat up that excess capacity, as I mentioned, then if you wish to keep your operating budget growing at a rate that we feel is important to maintain or do whatever we wish with our services, in order to do that, which we're currently growing faster than 2.5 allows, we would need to have a Prop 2.5 override, which, as I mentioned, has a low success rate. So it's very interesting to understand under what conditions might that excess capacity go to zero, and how soon would it, or how long would it take for that to happen. So let's take the first scenario, which is I'll call it the average growth column. If we look at that, the new growth that we've had in Burlington over the last 4 years has been about 1.94%. The budget growth that we've had on average over the last 4 years has been 4.85%. So if we did both the Fox Hill and the police station projects in this average growth model, even without a debt exclusion, it would be more than 12 years before we run out of excess levy capacity. So from a levy capacity point of view, we would feel pretty comfortable in the average case, actually, that there's not a lot to worry about there. But we don't like being that optimistic. John in particular is a very pessimistic guy. So if we take a conservative growth model and say, okay, if we take a 3-year window any time in the last 15 years or so, what's the lowest growth we've had over a 3-year window? And the answer is about 1.62%. So let's back that off even and say, let's call it 1.5% just to be really conservative. So in this model with what I'll call lousy growth, and have the same average budget growth that we've had in the last 4 years, in that case, if we do debt exclusion for both Fox Hill and the police station, it's still 11 years before the excess levy capacity goes away. So that's a pretty comfortable place to be still. If we don't do the debt exclusion for both those projects, it's 6 years before the capacity goes away. So it's not a panic situation by any means. It's not a requirement that we have the debt exclusion, but it falls in the good idea category. It's a fiscally responsible thing to do, that if we do the debt exclusions, it gives us more headroom for the future, that we don't have to worry about using up our excess capacity, in 6 years. It's 11 years instead, so that's a good thing. The other thing I'll note is that with both these projects, there are things, both projects have had feasibility studies approved by town meeting, so there's at least some level of understanding that there's a need for both these projects to be done. Both projects in their feasibility studies have determined that it is necessary to do these projects, that they're not, neither one is simply a want, that they're actually things that should be done to maintain or improve our infrastructure in town. And the size of both projects is not substantially different. The Fox Hill project is only about a third larger than the police station project, 45 versus 61.5 million. So there's a lot of similarities between the projects, and as a result, say from a fiscal point of view, the two projects should be handled the same way. The only reason to treat these projects differently would be from a political point of view, quite frankly. So there's no good fiscal reason why these would be treated differently. If we go to the next slide, we get to what recommendations we came to as a result of all this previous data. So the first one is that the town should move forward now on both the police station and Fox Hill projects, and neither one should be dependent on the debt exclusion. We should schedule town meeting bonding votes for both these projects as they become ready. The police station is pretty much ready now, so scheduling that for the May town meeting makes sense. The Fox Hill project is not quite there yet. We'll talk about that in a moment, a timeline, but will be there in September, and it will make sense to put on the town meeting warrant for September of this year. And then we recommend scheduling debt exclusion votes in the April town election in 2025. The first town election that would be after town meeting votes. So again, the debt exclusion is something that's very desirable, but it's not required to fund the projects. Projects fit within our levy capacity, and for a good number of years, we don't run into an issue. So it's not a panic situation. It's just a good idea to have it. I should note that again, because there's confusion on this, is that the debt exclusion vote doesn't affect your taxes at all. In other words, whatever tax impact doing these projects might have, it's going to have that impact, whether you have the debt exclusion or not. So a big part of the education campaign is going to be explaining that very fact. You're not, you, the town people, when you vote in the election for this debt exclusion, you're not voting right now, will my taxes go up or not because of these projects. You're not even voting on the projects because town meeting is determining the expenditure. You're just voting to give good financial leeway planning for the future for the town. So why the town election? There's a couple obvious reasons. One is it avoids conflict with the presidential election. So during presidential election, people are very rightly thinking about who do I want for president? Who do I want to vote for the House of Representatives? Who do I want to vote for my U.S. Senator? And they may not be focused on learning the details of what is a debt exclusion exactly in the middle of all that going on. So not surprisingly, a local election is a pretty natural choice for what is obviously a local issue. So that's why the town election is one that makes good sense there. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see what the timeline that this implies. So if we look in the left column, the police station, we're talking again May town meeting for a bonding vote, and then April 25 for the debt exclusion vote. If we look at Fox Hill, we'll see just a little more detail here. So at the end of February, the MSBA, Mass School Building Authority, voted to proceed with the project, meaning they basically said, things look good now, you're following the process, go with it, and we'll hopefully be on board when you finish the process, but it looks good right now. In August is when the board will have their official approval vote, where they'll say, yeah, you jumped through all the hoops, you've met all our requirements, we will give you the $33 million that we said was the plan. So in August, we'll know if we're getting that money before the town meeting. That starts a time clock of 120 days where the town has to come up with a funding plan in order to maintain the MSBA grant. So certainly voting in the September town meeting fits in that 120 days, obviously. And so that would be the first time where we would know for sure that we're getting the MSBA funding, and it makes sense for a town meeting then to vote on authorizing the expenditure. And then, as mentioned in the same April election, we would do the debt exclusion, where again, it's not a referendum on do we do the project. That was decided at town meeting. It's a referendum on do we provide this financial headroom for the levy in the future. So it's really, in some ways, planning ahead for future projects, where by having this debt exclusion, it makes us a little more comfortable in doing future projects, and that we haven't used up our entire levy already before we even start thinking about those things. So that's where we are. Be happy to hear what your thoughts are.
Are you sure? Sure about that? Thank you, John. Thank you, John. That's it's a lot of work, it's a lot of thought, requires a lot of discussion. I know we've had discussions on this, strategic sessions and otherwise. So let me open it up to Jim. Why don't I start with you, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, I've been studying this issue, or follow this issue very closely, as Mr. Espejo has. Read this inside and out. But I do have a question on, under the section says Prop 2.5 debt / capital outlay exclusion. Under there it says, in general, may aggregate projects on ballot, but MSBA does not allow that. Does that mean it has to be one vote or two?
So it's a little complicated. So in general, Prop 2.5 says that you could decide to have a single question on the ballot that says, would you like to authorize this debt exclusion in the total of such and such amount for the two projects? MSBA has additional rules that say you cannot aggregate it and you have to have a separate question specifically for the school. So under MSBA rules, we would be required to have one question for the police station debt exclusion and another question for the Fox Hill debt exclusion. Now, the additional complication on that is if we go with the recommendation here of not making the projects contingent on debt exclusion, we'll have already come up with a funding mechanism in town meeting for both projects in the May and September meetings. So at that point, the project's funding would in no way would be dependent on the debt exclusion, in which case I believe that the MSBA rule would no longer apply. So we could decide to aggregate it or not. That's our understanding. We would, of course, ask town council to, officially weigh in on that. But given that the funding's already there, we technically could come back 3 years from now and say, you know what, we didn't do a debt exclusion, but it seems like it might be a good idea. Let's do a debt exclusion now, 3 years later. Obviously, MSBA, would have no impact on that because the project would be well underway. I mean, we could be done building the school, and decide to do it. So the answer is, under this plan, we could decide to aggregate them, or we could decide to do them as two separate questions. I think there's no doubt a lot of armchair strategy will go into which one is the better thing to do. I know we've talked with administration about that quite a bit, but both are options to us.
Just a follow-up?
Yes.
Maybe I missed it, but it says, you said we could aggregate them, but it says MSBA does not allow that. Maybe I missed how we could do that.
I should have probably written it slightly more detailed and said MSBA does not allow us to aggregate it if the debt exclusion is required for funding of the plan. Since we're suggesting not making debt exclusion be a requirement for the funding, that rule wouldn't apply.
All right, that clarifies.
I ran out of space on this.
Okay, well, that explains. All right. I'm all set for now.
Okay, and I know John and Paul were both nodding in agreement with Mr. Eiler there. Nick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, thank you. This is now the second time I've listened to this presentation. I think I've got it this time.
It may take a third time.
And that goes to, I think, my biggest point that I want to make tonight. I know that we're not voting on this tonight, that we'll have an opportunity to discuss it further. The education to the residents around this is paramount to its success and the success of future projects, right? There's no question in my mind that 60 plus years ago, this town built just about everything in one fell swoop over the course of a very short span of time. And now here we are 60 years later having to react to buildings starting to get old, right? They're old, right? And we don't want them to be in a negative place. So I think that as we look at projects going forward, we want to make sure that we space everything so that, number one, it hits us correctly from a tax burden perspective. And number two, in another 60 years, whoever's still here isn't looking back and going, why, you sons of guns? 120 years you've been playing this game with us. So I mean, as somebody who works in marketing, making sure that we take the time over the next, if we're going for April, next year, to really talk to the residents and make sure they understand when they walk in there on voting day what they're voting on. So that's, I think, all I have right now in terms of a thought. No real questions. Again, I appreciate the work of you and the rest of Ways and Means and Paul and John. Very much appreciated. That's all I have right now, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, John?
Yeah, so, again, I should have made this clear in the beginning. While it's the Ways and Means recommendation, we spent a lot of time with the administration on this too, so we could all be on board with the same plan here. And to your point, I think, yeah, I mean, all this, basically the schools were all built in the 60s, so they're all coming due, roughly at a similar time as a result. And I think, that's yet another reason why we wouldn't want to delay a Fox Hill school, because it will start bumping into the high school plan that is underway now. And so, as part of this presentation, it described the associated tax impact of these two projects. The police station about $150, Fox Hill about $200 per year for the average or median residential tax impact. So the key thing of that is that doesn't all happen in 1 year. So these projects are done in phases. There's the initial design work, and there's a certain amount of bonding associated with that, and then shovels hit the ground, and there's some of that, and payments are made not all up front. So the point is, it doesn't need to be bonded all up front. So if we look at the $150 for the police station, it may be a $50 increase in the first year, and another $50 the next year, and another $50 the third year. So it's not a big whammy all at once. And similarly with Fox Hill. So the point is, you want to have these things staggered so that the phasing in of these taxes happen at different times. So by doing these projects now, whenever the high school project, for instance, comes up, we'll have phased in the taxes associated with these, for the most part at least, so that it's not all happening in 1 year, for exactly the reason that Mr. Priest mentioned.
Great. Joe.
Michael, go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been thinking a lot about how we as a town are going to pay for all of the projects that are ahead of us. $500 million potentially of new buildings, and it's really worried me and kept me up at night. And I want to thank you and Ways and Means for coming forward with a plan to try and address the first issue here. I think we as a town right now are at an inflection point where we have to act very carefully and very deliberately going forward to how we're going to handle these projects and the projects we want to accomplish. I think all of us as a town should really work to try and plan better for our future needs and not let us get to a place where we need 3 new schools and a police station right away. That police station's in terrible condition, as we all know, and it should have been built by now, quite frankly, and it got pushed off and pushed down the road. And I don't want to point any fingers or try and make too much blame, but we have to do better in planning for these type of things. We have people that want to save the Union School, and in 1980, when it became eligible to go on the National Register, Historic Register, no one ever applied for it, and we never appropriately earmarked and tried to preserve that building. And now, at the 10th hour, it's caused an outrage. And I mean, we couldn't even submit it now to the National Historic Register because of the vinyl siding. So I hope going forward we take the lessons of where we are right now and do better. I mean, we shouldn't submit for the high school to MSBA 11 straight years and expect a different result, which is the literal definition of insanity. We've got to be smarter with our planning. We've got to be smarter with our money, and we got to be smarter all around. I think we're in a new world. It's post-COVID. The building costs, material costs are another reason why this is such a tough nut for us to crack right now. We have to watch the effects of inflation and how these buildings and how these increases to the taxes to our residents will impact people's daily lives. People are struggling out there, and people are living check to check and trying to figure out how they're going to pay their taxes. We always, as a board, have to be mindful of the residents and their plight when we think of these new projects, which I know are needed. I would love to see a new high school. I think it's a great need. I've wanted one for years, and I'm glad that we're taking a look at it. So there's a lot to digest here, and I'm glad we're not voting on this tonight. There's a lot. I go back and forth on all of this all the time. do want to take one respectful objection. I look at these as two separate projects, and I think they're very different size. The elementary school is a $100 million building, and I know we're getting $29 million from MSBA. I got it. 33, even better. And I know that the police station's 45, but that MSBA money is our money. It's 1% of our sales tax. And I buy a lot of silly stuff and contribute a lot to that fund, so we also have to make sure we're spending that money in the right way. So a lot to digest here, and again, I have had some passionate conversations about this with people all over town, all types of levels of government and residents, and I go back and forth all the time on it, and I'm still struggling with it, so I'm still working through it, and I know it's hard, so I do appreciate the efforts of everyone here, Ways and Means, and everyone around town talking about it, because it's definitely a critical moment to get this right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good.
Thanks, Mike. John?
Yeah, and just, I think certainly legitimate points there. I guess the thing I'll emphasize is with the current set of incentives, what is a $100 million project is costing us $61.5 million. Yeah, absolutely money from the state is our money too, but the bottom line is if we don't take the MSBA money, it's going to be our money paying for someone else's school. So the bottom line is that's money we've already sent in. It's just a matter of whether we want to get some of it back or not. And the thing I would say is, again, emphasize that a lot of effort has been put in this over 2 years, and the determination was made that this is something that's important and necessary to do. If we don't do it now, it's not, don't imagine that we could, okay, let's just fire it right back up next year, 2 years from now. We're probably looking 10, 20 years from now before, quite frankly, you'll be able to regain the credibility that was lost by, canning a project so far down the path. And quite frankly, getting all the boards and committees interested in putting that level of effort again, because no one wants to put in that level of effort when, okay, here's a project we thought we need to do, but we decide not to because we changed our mind. So I think I would caution us to be very careful to avoid that pitfall. But certainly valid concerns, no doubt about it, and I think no one likes to raise taxes, but the other thing to be aware of, and looking at the community comparison that the administration has put together, even with the tax impact of these projects, we're still at the bottom of the scale in that chart. So it's not like this propels us to the Lexington level taxes all of a sudden because we decide to keep up our infrastructure. I think one of the things that the debt rating agencies have told us, and as you know, we have a AAA rating, that my understanding is that they basically told us you guys aren't investing enough. Your debt is too low, which sounds a little weird, but the implication of debt being too low is it means that you're not really keeping up with your infrastructure. And I think that goes to exactly what Mr. Espejo is pointing out there, is that projects have been put off, and at some point you've got to do these projects. They can't be put off forever. So the correct answer to solving the kicking the can down the road isn't to kick it down the road even further. So I think that's what we want to be careful about.
Thank you. Joe?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, then you got the floor.
All right, here we go. Listen, this is way above my pay grade. He said he heard it twice. You said he might have to hear it a third time. I've talked to a lot of the members out there that have heard it 2 or 3 times. This is my first time actually watching this thing. So I'm definitely going to have to watch it again or talk to them out there or you about what's going on, because that was intense. That was intense. I don't think I'm more confused than I was. I don't think I can get there, but does an Ezio, not a word. But that was incredible. That was really great. I want to thank you and the staff for putting that together, the Ways and Means. One of the things I did like hearing was the fact that the way the taxes could possibly work is be bonded out over the years, so the residents aren't hit all at once. That's my big thing. What is the best way to do this for the residents? Yeah, we need it. We're going to get it. One way or the other, we're paying for it. Whether it's debt exclusion, Prop 2.5, whatever it may be, we're paying for it. But what is the best way for these residents to understand, to go to town meeting, make sure that they understand exactly what's going on? They can't do that in a one-night presentation. They can't. I'm sorry, but I don't think anybody could unless you're you, because you're just brilliant. I'm just saying, but I can't thank you enough. I'm going to have to learn a lot more, and I'm going to have to listen. I'm going to have to, you guys get ready for some phone calls out there. All right? So all I want to say is thank you, and listen, we're here to do what's right for the residents. What's right for the residents is the way it's going to be, because these are going to happen.
Yes, well,
It's not a matter of when, they're going to happen.
Thank you for your feedback, and, we're certainly available. And I agree that, part of why we are presenting this in many different forums and talking to a lot of folks is it is an involved topic, and, getting people on board with something this involved, takes a bit of time, and I agree. It's actually good, I think, that we're doing the town meeting, or suggesting doing town meeting votes in 2 different town meetings, so that people can be eased into this. And I know that Mr. Denizio has presented several town meetings already, giving town meeting a heads up that this kind of stuff is coming down the pike, and thinking about debt exclusions and so on, and hopefully people have internalized that. But you're absolutely right. We have a lot of education to do, both for town meeting and for the general town election on this.
Well, I didn't think I was slow until I listened to that, and I was like, that's a lot to learn in one night. Thank God we're not voting on this tonight. Thank God we're not. That's all I can say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Joe, thank you very much. John, thank you very much for your presentation. Very informative, lot to digest there. In fact, thank the entire Ways and Means Committee for all the work you do, not just only on this, but on all of the town's finances. I know you put in a great deal of time and effort, and I thank you all very much. So we will be kicking this around some more, I'm sure. I know Paul and John are into it. Even if we may require another strategy session with us, I'm not sure, but there's more to discuss for sure. So,
will you come and join us?
I'll be happy to join. I still got a couple of weeks left, 10 days or whatever that is. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks,
all right.
John.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, John, for all the work. Thank you, John.
Yes, Mr. Monaco, I'll be calling you.
I should have asked. Did you want a final word or anything on this topic?
I think John covered all the important parts. I know that John Denizio and I really think that one of the most important things that we can do, I think, as a community is sort of get on the same page. I think, as was illustrated tonight, this is very complicated subject matter, and I think it jeopardizes both of these projects if we don't have a really cohesive plan to bring to town meeting. I think they're going to be looking to us for a plan, and if there's multiple plans going on, I don't think that bodes well for either the police station or the Fox Hill project. So I think the plan may not be perfect for everybody, but I do think it's an excellent compromise of all the different issues related to debt exclusions. And like I say, I think the best part about the plan is that if we can all get on the same page, I think it will really show town meeting how well thought out this is, and give both of the projects the best chance for success at town meeting.
Agreed. Okay, anything further? Okay, very good. All right. Continued public hearing, item 51, grant of location, South Bedford Street. 50, Mike.
No, you have to at least act on 50.
What?
Can you announce number 50? Are we skipping over that one?
Oh, I'm sorry. Senior moment. Okay, item 50, discussion approval, Town Common Sculpture Park fundraiser. Let me just explain. This has been postponed. Joe and I met with DPW and REC and a number of logistics issues have come up. You know, we're still supportive of the idea. We just need to dot our i's and cross our t's. There's quite a few questions, so we'll circle back on that one. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry about that, guys. All right. Item 51, continued public hearing, grant of location, South Bedford Street. Joanne, I see Joanne's online with us, correct?
Yep, you should be able to hear her.
Okay. Hi, Joanne, welcome.
She's lighting up, but we can't hear her.
Oh, how's that? Joanne, do you hear us?
Try to use her
Unmuted again.
Try one more time. Joanne, are you there?
Can't hear you.
Okay.
I see you now.
Yeah, we can't hear you. I'm reading her lips. I know. Okay, you can try dialing on your phone? All right.
All right, just while she's doing that, this is a continued public hearing. There was some, the only issue the board had last time was with the number of double poles in that area, and we asked Joanne to go back to her superiors and see if there was any, come back to us, hopefully with some sort of commitment to address them somehow, some way, some fashion. I don't know if we've been able to do anything like that. Joanne, are you with us yet? Oh, okay.
Is there any way we can guide her to check her settings?
I was gonna say, I mean.
Should be able to call in, I mean.
Yeah, that's what I think JD is doing now.
We should be open.
TV volume?
And she.
Oh, that's a good question.
No, we're shown, ours is shown green too.
Well, yeah, but her box is lighting up blue when she talks. It's just we can't hear.
TV itself.
So is the type of...
Can you hear me?
All right, yes.
Can you hear me?
We got you.
We have you now, yes.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Okay. Excuse me. So I do have some information, but it's really not what you're looking for. What I did find out is that obviously you know that Burlington is a Verizon set area, and they were kind enough to set the poles at our request. So the double poles are there due to Eversource, not Verizon. And when I spoke with the department that's responsible for transferring the services off of the old pole, if you will, to the new pole, they don't have a date as to when they're going to get that done. I tried my best to nail them down. I just was not successful. So that's the story with the double poles.
Okay. I'm not surprised, Joanne, and I know you're just a messenger. All right. I'll open it up to the board. You want you got anything to follow up with Joanne on? Anything regarding the application? Anybody?
Mr. Chairman.
If I can just add that I also found out that the conduit in South Bedford is important because we are at capacity, the electric service in that area. So there's a new substation that's going in on Sierra Way, and that conduit is going to support that substation so that we can keep up with the demand of electricity in Woburn and Burlington.
Right, and this board has been very supportive of what's going on down there in Sierra Way in every way possible. And we understand the need for the additional capacity in town to service our residents and businesses. Jim, what'd you have?
Mr. Chairman, not so specific to this agenda item, but with regards to double poles, maybe we could start coming up with some sort of way of inventorying them and, not giving approval to certain requests until they're rectified. So something for us to look at, but not with regards to this.
Actually, when I first started on the board, on the application that any utility filled out, there was a section asking if there were any double poles in that specific work area. I don't see that anymore. That just sort of went by the wayside, I think. But not that it did any good. It's never done any good.
But maybe
I just thought this one, with the amount of poles in this area, I thought I would just try to shine a light on it. I understand the need for maintaining and upgrading our infrastructure. I just thought this was this one really happened to catch my eye.
Just a quick follow-up. So again, not specific to this agenda item, but maybe we can start making that, I don't want to say contingent, but not give approval till the double poles are addressed. Just something to think about down the road.
I was hoping for just even a wink and a nod or something tonight, just to
we're not getting that
make me feel just a little better,
Lie to us.
Give him a wink and a nod, please.
Mr. Chairman, I think the biggest problem is that, we all think that that's the best course of action, but what happens is we'll have an application before the board, and it'll be someone trying to get their house hooked up to the electricity, and by the board holding on to that sort of philosophy on double poles, we'd be actually hurting the resident more than we would be hurting the actual utility company. So, I think we talked about it last time. The state really needs to put some teeth in the law so that there are fines and financial penalties for the utilities for the double poles for whatever reason. For the past 30 years that I've worked in government, there has been little progress on that. It is under discussion again, I think, one of Governor Healy's new acts. So I think until the state gives us a little bit of tool to work with, a stick to hold against the utility companies, I think it's a difficult task to take on. We know that all the residents hate the double poles, but as Joanne said, typically if they're before us, it's to put in a conduit or a pole or a line that's going to assist a resident or a business here in town with the utility needs. So that's the difficult situation that the board would find itself in.
Nick?
Thanks, Chairman. So first thing, I know last summer I talked to Tom Hayes about this, and there is, I guess, maybe it's a web-based app, or there's a program that all of these folks, all these different vendors are in, and it notifies them when it's basically their turn, and it keeps track of all the double polls that are logged in the system. I'm going to take Joanne nodding as validation of what I'm saying, which is good. And that's great in terms of identification. I think that the bigger problem we have, like what we're saying, is that right now the state law has no teeth to it. So my question is, Paul, can we fashion our own stick and create a bylaw that provides the penalty that says, on top of the 90-day warning that you have, I'm just spitballing for a hot second, right? We'll provide you an additional 30 days, at which point the town will begin to issue its own penalty for each double pole that exists. Is that,
I think we can certainly talk that over with town council.
Yeah.
My gut feeling is that the utilities sort of report to a different entity. The State Department of Public Utilities, I think, is their go-to for oversight. Right. And again, that's the part of the whole, town doesn't exercise a lot of oversight over the utilities, but certainly something that we can explore with town council.
Right, and I appreciate that, because we're wildly out of balance, right? Even though they're here and they're in our community, there's nothing stopping them, right? And it's just going to continue to persist, right? It's like we need the infrastructure. That's a given, So at the very least, hopefully we can I don't know, we can find a way to fashion our own stick and use it.
Yeah, happy to look into that.
Thank you. Nothing specific though to this, Mr. Chairman. I think that we're not going to see poles getting popped and removed and replaced. I understand where Joanne's coming from. I appreciate her, taking the message back from us. So, thank you.
At least she made the inquiry. Anybody else? What's up? Joe, you all set?
Oh, you don't want to hear what I have to say.
I always want to hear.
Oh, you don't, not tonight, you don't.
Especially when you say it like that.
So when I'm so convinced, just say no, whatever. We'll get him down one way or the other. I mean, I'm not going against what she has, but, enough's enough. It's just like the whole world today. You're just afraid to say anything. Take the poles down. What's the big deal? Because it's going to cost somebody money? It costs us money to keep up. We have to hear from the residents constantly. We have to hear from the two neighbors down the street. This guy over here, take the poles. Why is it double poles? Why are these here? Well, she just said to us, it's very important that we get this conduit in because the people need it. Well, we need the poles down. It's a give and take. It's the way this world works. So, do you want me to keep going?
I'm with you. I wanted to see something more than that. Okay.
Nothing against you, Joanne. It's just the way the company works.
All right, final call for the public portion. Is anybody in the room or online that wants to comment on this application? I'm not seeing any. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
And if there's nothing further on the granted location, I'll entertain a motion for that.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, we approve the granted location South Bedford Street for NSTAR, that's doing business as Eversource Energy.
Motion to approve from Jim. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Nick. Anything further on the polls or the application here? All right, being none. All in favor of the granted location for South Bedford Street?
Aye.
No.
No.
No. Okay. 2 in favor, 3 opposed. I don't know what your next steps are, but not tonight.
So did I understand it was not approved?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks, Joanne.
Okay, bye now.
Right. All right. Mr. Denizio, you've got a ton of budgets for us.
Yep, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have some good news that I'm going to ask that a few of them be moved to the next meeting. But we'll start off while she's coming in. I think she's here in the room. I think I called her over prematurely about an hour ago. So I'll give you just a high-level overview and then let Christine answer questions or get into or add any detail to it. You can see that the budget for the department is going up by just under 3.3%, which is about almost $18,000. It's under guidelines, which is good news. The changes would have been, this is one of the departments that we're using some ARPA funds for, dedicated specifically to mental health. And if we weren't having to absorb some of those or potentially having to absorb some of those in the budget, it would have been probably a budget decrease this year, given that they had some staff turnover over there, or some staff changes. And expenses level funded with the small exception of adding the cell phone expense in this year for the first time. But Christina's here to answer any questions or add anything that I missed or anything you would like them to know.
You got it.
Anything we should know?
Oh, yeah, I'm in charge. I forgot. I was waiting for So never mind. Hey, how you doing? Would you like to add anything to that? I completely forgot I was in charge. He left.
Gosh, keep him here past 7, he turns into a pumpkin.
Listen, it's 8:10, I'm ready, I'm past my bedtime, so go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
don't have anything to add in terms of the figures. Maybe I could take a moment to share a little bit about what's going on in the department. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So we're coming off of just having been up at the high school. Each year we go in and teach a curriculum on teen depression. And it really is, the purpose of it really is to help kids. We know that kids talk to kids. So giving kids the resources in terms of if they had a friend or just a classmate who was feeling like they wanted to hurt themselves or end their lives, to sort of know what to do, how to manage that situation, and also be able to know who an adult in their life, both one in school and one outside of school, that they can go to talk about what's going on. And each year when we do that, what happens is we inevitably get some referral calls, folks that need help with depression and suicide. So that's been true as well. So obviously, services that we provide are needed, and
Mike, you're back.
Yeah.
Because I forgot you left.
we're also in
We
the
sat here for like 2 minutes waiting for something to happen. My back was like this, I went, oh yeah, I'm in charge, I forgot.
We're also about 3/4 of the way of that federal grant, the whole youth homelessness grant that we got. It took us about a year to fill the position that we needed for that grant. So we've had somebody in there for 6 months. We're in the process of housing 2 youth within the community. As those of you who have applied for and have gotten federal grants, you're kind of going straight, you take a sharp left and a sharp right. But it feels like it's working well.
Fantastic, thank you very much. We'll go to the board. Jimmy, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Christine, no questions, but I say this every time you come up before us, that you're the department in town that no one wants to, they don't know about your department until they need your department. It's one of Burlington's hidden gems, I want to say, because it helps people in crisis. And ongoing, not just so much in crisis, but ongoing issues, day to day, not just today, but it could last days, months, or weeks, or years. And your agency is the one that helps people get back onto their feet the best that they can. And I'm just hoping that between your department, the clinicians at the schools, the clinician and recovery coach at the police station, in addition to all the civic groups that we have, like Help Us, Woman Aid, Mama Bear, I think, I get the picture that we're doing a lot for the residents. I just hope we're doing enough. And if at any point somebody sees a void or an area that we need to add to, just let us know. We try to do as much as we can for the residents, but we don't know if we're doing everything. So again, just thank you and your staff for all the work they do.
If I could also respond to that, so like all of the nonprofits in the community we gather together on a quarterly basis and sort of talk about the different things that people are doing, and what some of the needs are out there, and figuring out if there are needs that aren't being addressed, what are ways that we can address them.
Thank you. You're on top of it. Thank you. All set.
Thank you.
No, just thank you for all you do. I know how much you guys do, and know how valuable that is, the service to the community for people in need. So I don't think many people hear about it, and I love to always take the opportunity to say thanks.
Nicholas?
Thank you. Sorry. Christine, thank you for waiting and coming and talking to us. I appreciate it. I agree with the board, right? There's so much value in your department, and to your point, into the interconnectedness of the departments and the nonprofits and how it all works together. And I also want to echo the sentiment that, if there is anything that you need, please let us know. I think it's important that, we're doing what we can to support, that interconnectivity, because of how important it is to the people who need it, right? And really, by extension, how important it could be to all of us at any given point in our lives. I have one question. I was just curious as I was going through the budget. and this kind of relates to what I was saying, the interface referral service, can you tell us more about that? What is it, how does it work?
What communities are doing in Burlington started a few years back. So we split the cost of that program with the school department. Anybody who is a resident of the town of Burlington can contact them. Interface is a referral service for mental health services. And so folks within the community can reach out. There's an 800 number call. Folks can reach out. They do a quick screening process and try and look within the geographic region to find therapists that have openings in their practices and connect people to mental health services. So.
Awesome. So the number that's here is half of the overall cost of schools that pick up their mail. Okay, great. Awesome. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Anything else? Michael? Sir? Anything else? Take a motion on this?
Make a motion to approve the Burlington Youth and Family Services budget as presented.
Motion by Jimmy, second by? Second. By Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Oh, yeah, that's right. Abstain.
And if I can take this moment to just say thank you, Michael, for your service here to the community. You've been a great asset to this community, and I wish you well in the next chapter.
Well, thank you so much, Christine. Appreciate that. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Mr. Chairman, the next department will be the DPW. We'll be reviewing the operating budget and 3 of their accommodated accounts. I think Brian and Rachel are both here.
They are indeed.
As they walk up, for the operating budget, the overall increase is 5.18%, or just over $550,000. Brian and Rachel continue to go rise in house. I did share with you the summary sheet, just in case it wasn't in your books, but I did. Yeah, it is in the books too. But I will turn it over to them for questions and to get people into the operating budget.
Okay, welcome.
Good evening, board. I guess I think how we've done it typically before is Rachel will give a quick rundown through the summary and then get into any details, specific questions.
Fair enough.
It's good with you. I'm just going to go line by line about any change you see. And I'm going to exclude accommodated and we'll wait because that's a separate vote. All right, so full-time, we have an increase of just under 6%, mostly due to contractual agreements. Then next we see a negative in part-time. So we removed a few positions due to lack of applicants and staffing over the past 5 years. We did a real deep dive into both part-time and overtime this year and wanted to kind of balance it out and make it more accurate going forward. So that's why you see a large decrease in part-time and then in overtime. We reallocated some of our part-time staff into the overtime budget, and then we, just kind of looked at what each division has been spending in overtime over the past 5 years and created a more accurate final number on that, and we can go into each division later if we need to. Next up, we have occupancy. We did an increase this year. We have our new building at One Great Meadow. We finally have 12 months worth of data. We didn't have that previously. So it's just a rough estimate. And then we also have additional HVAC costs associated with the new PFAS building at the Mill Pond Treatment Plant. It is not separately metered, so it's all going through the 1 meter at Mill Pond. So now we can kind of see what it's doing month to month. We don't have a full 12 months on that. Obviously, the building just kind of came up in July. Contracted services, it's kind of a 2.2% increase, sorry. That's just due to inflation from our items across the board and also the cost of purchasing MWRA water again. Materials and supplies, again, inflation, minor increases. So the big drive here, it's coming from FY25 is a catch basin cleaning year. We go out to bid for that. And now going forward, in order to comply with that MS4 permit, we're going to be cleaning 12 storm scepters, which I think Brian describes as catch basins on steroids. And then we are including a new cost. It's annually going to be about $60,000, and it's coming from water and sewer, and it's cost of the filter replacement for PFAS at the new PFAS facility. Next is Melt. We have new employees, which means we have new license reimbursements. And capital outlay. Every other year we do a dam inspection. That's a $10,000 cost. If you subtract that from the total, we're kind of right on budget of how we've been last year. So we have 2 new trailers that we're asking for. We have a vehicle body part that's going to kind of Band-Aid and extend the life of one of our vehicles instead of replacing it for about $20,000 to $25,000. And then we have some water and sewer necessary equipment that'll be cheaper to buy than to continue renting, and also for safety and health reasons. Moving down to well cleaning and sludge removal. So now it's just sludge removal. You know, we are closing our wells as we are trying to decommission our Vineberg treatment plant. It's no longer in use, fully offline. So we do 2 large hauls annually of the sludge in Mill Pond, $65,000 a haul, $130,000. So that's a $10,000 increase from last year. And next up, we have Highway 1. It's kind of balanced out with our sign and lane painting. So the big increase in Highway 1 is for cement. Cement itself is going up for inflation, and then gravel. This year already, we've spent between $20,000 and $30,000 on gravel, and that's used to repair roads after we have the water main breaks. And that line item is only at $4,000, so it's way lower than it should be. In the past years, we've spent anywhere from like $15,000 to $30,000 annually, so we definitely want to increase that. And then sign and lane painting, we're actually decreasing in order to include the cost of the thermo, which is the striping in the middle of the roads after we pave a road, in the road bond and the paving contract. So we're going to start including that as part of the big price when we go out to bid for paving. And skipping trash, going down to physical exams, we have a new vendor. And they're just more expensive. Our old vendor is no longer providing them for us. The perk of the new vendor is also an expense. They do in-house random testing. They'll actually set up shop in the basement of the annex, and they can just knock out a bunch of tests for our employees all in a row. So it's really convenient for the employees. Doesn't really interrupt their work day as much. So we do appreciate that service. So it's only a $500 increase, but it's showing us over 7%. And there you go.
Questions? George, your subcommittee, any?
No, I have none. Not a question.
No, they're good, they're good.
Not after that breakdown, I'm good.
About you?
I had 5 questions.
Okay, go ahead. No, don't apologize. No,
Could
that's
you
what we're here
possibly
for.
have a question after that? Perfect.
You know, it's funny, when I get more detail, I have more questions. So.
The rest of the world is the other way. There's Nick.
That's otherwise it makes a problem for the rest of the guys. I'll make it as quick as possible, though. Question 1, the trailers that are in the Capitol, what are they for? Are they?
So Highway has a trailer. We have our person who you see around town who does all the stop signs, road signs. They're currently living in his shop. He puts them in his truck. It's kind of clunky, so we just figured it'd be a lot easier for those big days where he's doing a lot of sign replacements. He can put everything in the trailer neatly, tow it on the truck, and do that. And then we are replacing a trailer, I believe, in our buildings and cemeteries. They have one that's kind of rusted out, rotting, so this is a replacement for their trailer.
Okay. Next question. When we do things like stream and brook dredging, where does that come from, budget-wise?
So the stream cleaning article that we have that's separate from conservation is a capital item request.
Okay. And that's for a company to come do it, us to get equipment?
Yeah, that's the contract that would.
Contract that.
Specialized companies that.
Okay. All right. I like the creativity around the part-time versus overtime. That's very well thought out. My concern, and I'm sure that you're already thinking about this, is over time, are we going to see a problem with not having enough of a workforce that, like, now we're just like working with the guys we got, right? And, you know, are we going to not have folks in a part-time arena that we could, you know, train up into full-time roles over time, you know, or, I mean, how do you see that working out, I guess?
Yeah, they've been going down. I mean, mainly the last several years, we've gotten some summer help. We haven't been able to really get part-time solid throughout the year. And then every summer, it's kind of been going down more and more. One of the big issues with it is that in order to operate in order to, I believe, drive the town vehicle and operate the equipment, they have to be 18, not 16. So there's a little bit of an issue there. If they're going to come on as summer help in the cemeteries, they need to be able to use, lawnmowers and stuff like that. We've seen the downturn. So I don't know what the answer is to it. There seems to be less interest. The handful of times that we do get some people, half of them maybe after a week or so, physical labor, they don't return.
God forbid someone does physical labor anymore. All right. That's nothing against you guys, obviously. That's people's ability to, rough up their hands and get dirty. All right. Like I said, I think that the short-term solution is a smart one. I think long-term, we got to be keeping our head on a swivel. My last question, in terms of the trash removal, I know it's everyone's favorite topic. Is this number in line with a renegotiated contract with, or is this just like, how is this looking?
I don't know if you want to wait to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
It's an accommodated account.
It's next. It's because it's accommodated, right?
I know you're
All right.
excited.
I'll pause. All my questions for now.
Okay, Nick. Michael?
I had a question, but Rachel covered in her comprehensive presentation, so thank you. So I'm all set. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let me just ask you there's one question. I can circle back to stream cleaning for a minute. How does what we do at DPW differ from what conservation's doing in stream cleaning?
Sure. So conservation's program involves having some summer help employees come in. They will go through the streams themselves and do what they can to remove the trash, litter, branches, things that they can move by hand. They'll move it off. What our warrant article does is we work with conservation to target specific streams that have it has to show a presence of like a foreign material, primarily sand. It has to look like clay sand from erosion. Back in the day, it used to be when we sanded roads in the winter. But if the streams qualify for it, in conjunction with our conservation department, we have a contractor come in. They have a large vacuum truck that, with a hose that goes across people's yards, sucks out the sand.
All right, so basically mechanical versus hand stream cleaning. Okay, great, thank you. All set. Anything further on this item? Okay. The motion to approve the budget as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500. Okay, John, were you going to accommodate it, are you?
Yes, next is trash removal, and I'll let Rachel take it.
Hi, it's me again. We have 3 accommodated accounts that you should all be familiar with now. We have our street and traffic lights, rubbish and garbage, and then the DEP drinking water withdrawal assessment. So we're seeing no change in street and traffic lights, along with the DEP drinking water withdrawal assessment. We have a couple years left on our street light loan. I know that question comes up often, so I believe fiscal 27 is our last year of payments on that, which is exciting. And then DEP drinking water withdrawal assessment. Last year we had a couple questions on where this number comes from, and it's based on the demand of our system. So it's MWRA plus Burlington Water. We're about 1.05 billion, I believe, annually. So the cost is based on that. So it's never going to change or go away. So trash, we are going into year 2 of our collection, and the number you see is based on that collection contract. So the increase is based on CPI Consumer Price Index. It is now a nationwide % increase. We're seeing about 5.5% to 6% currently, and we have a cap at 6%. So this number is accurate and it does reflect what we're expecting to see next year. We will not exceed that for the solid waste and automated single stream recycling collection. The only thing that's still in negotiations is our disposal contract. It is up June 30th. We're partnering with Tewksbury as we have in the past, and it's under review with their town council. So we are expecting to sign something probably in the next 30 days.
Questions? We start down to my right. Michael, any questions on culminated?
No. What's a tipping fee? What does that mean? What is that for?
It's like the cost to...
They literally charge us to tip the barrels?
Yeah, based on the weight. So you bring in trucks in, they weigh it, and it's cost per ton.
Huh, interesting.
It's not the barrel, it's the...
Yeah, the big, yeah.
When the truck empties.
I need a tipping fee myself. I'm good, thank you.
Get on a Quinn Perkins, I got one, might take it. Roll right up on it.
Wow.
They dump at the incinerator.
Learn something every day.
Yeah. We'll talk about deer if you want.
No, good. I had that already.
I'm all set.
Joe, all set?
I'm all set.
Nick?
All set, thank you.
Jim?
All set as well.
It's unanimous then. Alrighty then, if there's nothing further, motion to approve accommodated accounts for DPW.
So moved.
Second. Mike, second by Nick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. There you go. That was pretty easy, but you got it.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Before Brian and Rachel leave, I want to thank them for staying so late, but also just to let you know, I think most of you know, that you'll be hearing more from Rachel as she was promoted to the budget director here at Burlington, so.
Oh, no, you didn't, I did not.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Not good news for Brian.
Brian's like, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, he wasn't clapping.
I will help Brian as long as I'm allowed to, so,
Congratulations.
thanks.
Budget director.
Moving in.
Yeah, we lost Whitney.
Changing buildings, huh?
Yeah, getting a new desk because it's a little small in there, but
Yeah, you don't have, there's not much wiggle room in that little, where Whitney was.
no one can visit me. That's the whole plan, right?
Just knock a wall, it'll be fine.
My dog won't fit in there, but that's cool.
Wow, good luck, congratulations. and good luck.
Congratulations, that's
Thank you so much.
fantastic.
That's great.
Sorry, Brian.
Mr. Chairman,
You'll have to hear more from me, so sorry.
if we could skip down to town meeting reports, and then after that, I'll give you an option.
Sure, absolutely, let's do that.
But for town meeting and reports, you'll see that it's level funded from last year. What is this? The money is to pay the people that, the part-time help that check in and run the mics around and do the AV and the technology and that whatnot. And then also, it funds the printing of the warrants, the printing of the annual report. Both of those cost a lot of money. Hopefully, both of them will go down, or at least the warrants, because people can opt out of printing those warrants. Now they can get them electronically after January town meeting. I believe it was in January. So hopefully, lots of people will. And then it pays for the constable fee for the warrant to be constabled. So it is level funded from last year. However, it has been level funded for quite some time. However, in the future, should current legislation that's been requested for remote town meetings and making some pre-COVID things permanent, we may have to ask to change that for more resources for town meeting, whether that's people or equipment or something like that, if there are more participants. But for now, level funded.
So, I've seen a couple come across my email system now. If somebody wants to receive the materials electronically, they have to ask, they have to...
They just have to sign off on it that I would rather get them, I prefer to get them electronically, so then we don't...
We're going to see 128 emails from every single town meeting member in my box. I don't know why I got copied on some of these requests. Not that
Yeah, we were copied.
Not that I really care, but...
We'll see you, Mike. You won't anymore.
I think I only got two.
I only saw one.
More than two? I think I only
I got two. That's what I'm wondering. There had to be more than
They
two.
must not all be coming, because I think Amy said there was 15 at least, so.
Yeah, there's at least 15 others, so we're getting
I think it
sporadic.
would be easier for people to who didn't want to receive it electronically, I suppose, this day and age. All right, never mind, it was just an observation.
We're not allowed to do passive approval for it.
To that-
Because we're changing our bylaws, sorry.
Sorry, I was just saying to that point, though, couldn't we just, like we do with the Ways and Means budget, I mean, like, I've been watching on my laptop the whole time, despite carrying the book around. Can't we just make all the materials available via a single login for town meeting members?
Yeah, so they are, you don't even have to log in, they're right on our website, right after they get sent out.
Yeah, they're on the website.
So they're available for every town meeting, but we'll also send them electronically to those people.
Okay. It seems slightly redundant. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, I'm just saying, like, if it's available to them.
If one extra email to not have to print them, I'll send them separate. If I
126 emails. You want to dance? We'll dance.
Okay. All right. Anything further on that? Anybody? All in favor? I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve town meeting reports.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500. What do you got next?
Mr. Chairman, here's the option I can give you for the other budgets that were in front of you for Department 149, which is central administration, and then some other things. There was a miscommunication between Mr. Genio and I. We're quite like a married couple and have problems communicating. And he's coming to the next meeting for some band renewal stuff.
Yeah.
So according to him, I said we would do this at the same time. I'm happy to do these tonight to get them approved, but if you'd rather Mr. Genio here to be able to answer any questions I can't, we could do it at the next meeting.
Yeah, won't kill us to wait.
Sure, you're not going to be here.
He's got no problem kicking that can.
Tonight's been a lot like...
10 o'clock, yeah.
You can wait.
We'll wait on those other two also if you want. Do you have two after you get debt service and Middlesex retirement?
We'll do one with Mr. Genio.
All good, okay, good. So we're done with budgets then for this evening? All right, okay. Good. We're going to talk about ARPA funds though. Item 53, approval ARPA funds.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is just an update. We've talked about ARPA off and on here. We had a plan that we agreed to and was approved by this board some time ago. That existing plan hasn't changed at all. Just for a reminder, that was the first thing we did when ARPA, we got $8.5 million. We used $5 million to design the PFAS project. We had just found out about the PFAS project. Sort of came out of the blue. We were able to use some of those funds to the design. We also used $1.5 million or $500,000 a year for 3 years to do revenue replacement from our loss of local receipts during the pandemic. This year is the last year of that. We also earmarked a significant amount for other COVID or expenses that lingered on after COVID. Some of those are the mental health resources we've dedicated to those departments, police department and youth and family that we talked about, a couple $100,000 for that. We used some for some building security office type of stuff, some AV thing, some audiovisual stuff, some remote software type of things, like for instance the WebEx that we're using tonight. And DocuSign, that was another couple $100,000, and then the plan was for us to come as we approach the end of COVID and use the rest of those remaining funds, which was around $6 million. For our original plan was to use it for PFAS. However, we were lucky enough to get a 0% financing on PFAS, along with some of the PFAS costs waived. So we said we will spend it on water and sewer projects. And the idea was to keep those projects off of our debt schedule. So the plan is to use that $6 million. It will end up being $6 million plus at the end, but for right now, and the reason I bring it up now is because we have to pay off those bands at the end of April, and this is how we're doing that. We're not directly paying the bands with this money, but we're using this money as revenue replacement and then paying off those bands. So now, what do you get out of that? We have a $4 million band that is never going to be permanently financed. It's going to come off our debt schedule.
$4 million.
Plus a $2 million band that will never be permanently finance and come off our debt schedule. So water and sewer projects, so part of the MWRA connection project, Phase 2A, and then the sewer force main at Francis Wyman will never see the debt schedule. So.
And so that will pretty much exhaust the ARPA funds then?
Yeah, we'll have, so we still have some committed for next year, and then there's a little wiggle room there from other things, and if those don't come to, if nothing comes up and that money, we'll use it for water and sewer, we'll just pay down another band with whatever's remaining to keep it off the list, or pay down a portion of a band.
Okay.
So I think this board was in agreement at the beginning that it's a good idea for us whenever we can to keep things off of our debt schedule. It saves us money for the next 20 or 30 years. So I think I want to applaud the board with sticking to that plan, because some places did very different and fun type projects with it, and this board was prudent and kept stuff off the debt schedule. So.
Okay, so according to the agenda, you're seeking approval tonight for...
Yeah, this plan has been approved in the past. It was more of an update. Approval of continuing with the plan would be great, but it has been approved in the past.
I see.
I don't see any harm in reapproving.
Anyone to reapprove this? Michael does?
I'll make a motion to continue our plan with the ARPA funds as planned.
Second.
Seconded. Questions? Anything further, guys? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, there you go. All righty. No minutes. Subcommittee reports. Joe, anything?
Nothing.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I don't really have anything. Our latest police station building committee meeting was postponed because we're waiting on some more final numbers on the project costs, so hopefully that'll get rescheduled. And just a reminder to everyone, April 6th is Election Day. Get out there and vote and bring a friend. And I think our local election is your most important election. It affects your day-to-day life more than any other election. So get out there and vote on April 6th.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Priest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gosh, no. I reserve my comments. I agree with Mr. Espejo that people need to go vote. 12 to 15% at local elections is not good turnout. And the residents of Burlington can do a lot better to show up. We've reduced a lot of barriers over the last few years to get people up to vote, and we're asking that folks at the very least get involved through a vote, right? That's the first step to understand what's going on, be involved in the community, engaging, and then maybe from there trying a little harder and volunteering where you can. But it all starts with getting out on that April Saturday and casting a ballot. So that's all. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Okay. And for me, I will end with this. All is well in Burlington, and I'm confident that things will continue to be well in Burlington with the people in this room do an outstanding job. I'm going to miss you a whole lot, but again, I'm confident that you will continue to do an outstanding work for this outstanding community that I love so much. So thank you all. Mr. Town Administrator.
I have nothing further tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Hold on. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Get that gavel.
I've never done that. I've
I think you should.
never touched it.
We've made comments about that. You've never touched that gavel, have you?
I have not. Get cooties.
All right.
So we have a motion to adjourn in a second, and all in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Very good.